Everyone has heard ghost stories, but very few people have lived through nights where the air turns heavy, the walls seem to breathe, and something unseen waits for you to fall asleep, just so it can move again. These are not legends. These are real nights, real places, and real people who swear the thing in their homes was alive. And this first story belongs to Daniel. Daniel never believed in ghosts. If someone mentioned the supernatural, he'd always laugh it off, calling it imagination, or stress, or the house settling. Until the winter he moved into the old duplex on Pine Street, a narrow, aging building squeezed between two abandoned houses. The landlord practically begged him to take it, offering the rent far cheaper than any other place in the area. Daniel, a college senior with very little money, didn't think twice. The first week was quiet. Cold, but quiet. The kind of cold that clung to your skin even after turning the heaters on full blast. He assumed it was just poor insulation. But the first sign came on a Sunday night. He was in bed, scrolling through messages, when a soft tap echoed from the kitchen. He ignored it at first. Old houses make noise all the time. Then another tap. Then another. Steady. Rhythmic. He got up, annoyed, thinking maybe a window was loose. But when he stepped into the kitchen, every cabinet door was standing wide open. All of them. He stared at them for a long moment, trying to convince himself he just forgot to close them earlier. But he remembered cooking dinner. He remembered cleaning up. He remembered closing every door. He brushed it off. He pushed every cabinet door shut, turned off the kitchen light, and went back to bed. He had barely pulled the covers up when a single cabinet door slammed shut with a force that shook the entire room. He froze. The air suddenly felt thick, pressing into his chest. A strange cold crawled up his arms, the kind that didn't feel like temperature, but something else. He forced himself out of bed again, heart racing, and walked back into the kitchen. All the cabinet doors were open again. Every single one. Including the one he was positive he had slammed shut with his own hand minutes earlier. Daniel didn't sleep that night. He sat on his couch with every light in the house turned on, trying to stay awake, telling himself there had to be a logical explanation. But deep down, he knew something had changed. The house wasn't quiet anymore. It wasn't empty. It felt like the house was watching him. For the next 2 days, nothing happened. Daniel thought maybe stress was messing with him. He was dealing with school deadlines, part-time work, and the exhaustion of moving. But on the third night, it began again. He was pouring himself a glass of water. He turned around to put the jug back into the fridge. And the glass he had placed on the counter was suddenly in the middle of the floor. He hadn't heard it move. He hadn't seen it slide. It was just that. He carefully picked it up. His hand was shaking. A moment later, the jug of water inside the fridge tipped over and spilled across the shelves. The fridge door was still open. He hadn't touched it. Daniel's throat felt tight. He wasn't alone. He knew it now. Something in the house was moving things. Small things at first, but every night it grew bolder. He would hear footsteps in the hallway, even though the floorboards didn't creak during the day. He would hear whispers behind the walls, soft enough that he couldn't tell what they said, but close enough that he could swear someone was listening. Then came the night he finally saw it. Daniel had fallen asleep on the couch while watching a movie. Around 3 a.m., he woke up to a strange sound, like a slow dragging across the floor. He sat up, rubbing his eyes. At the far end of the room, near the hallway, something moved. A dark shape. Not tall. Not human-shaped. More like the mass. A shadow. But the most horrifying part wasn't the shape. It was the fact that it moved against the light. The lamp on the table cast a bright beam across the room. Any normal shadow should stretch away from it. But this thing, its shape grew darker and thicker as it moved toward the light. Daniel whispered, trembling, "Hello." The shadow stopped. For a moment, just a moment, it felt like the entire room inhaled. Like the air itself was holding its breath. Then the TV remote flew off the table and smashed against the opposite wall. Daniel didn't scream. He couldn't. His voice was trapped somewhere inside his chest. He slowly backed toward the door, grabbed his keys without looking away from the hallway, and left the house barefoot in the middle of the freezing night. He didn't return until sunrise. The next morning, still shaken and exhausted, he went to the landlord's office. The landlord avoided eye contact the entire time Daniel explained what he had seen. When Daniel finished, the landlord sighed and lowered his voice. Not the first tenant to mention things moving. Or shadows. The family who lived there before you, they left almost a year early. They said the house was restless. Restless? A strange word for a property. Daniel asked him, "Did something happen there?" The landlord hesitated. Then he nodded. "Yeah, but I can't legally talk about it." Daniel felt cold sink deep into his stomach. Whatever happened in that house, whatever stayed behind, had not left. And somehow, some way it had noticed him. Some houses feel empty even when people live inside them. And some houses feel full even when every room is quiet. But for a woman named Elena, silence became the loudest warning of all. Elena was a nurse. Night shifts, constant exhaustion, and a need for quiet pushed her to move out of her busy apartment complex and into a small rental home on the edge of town, a place surrounded by tall trees and long, empty stretches of road. It was peaceful. Too peaceful. The house sat alone at the end of a gravel driveway, with a single streetlight flickering at the edge of the yard. Inside, it was modest but cozy, wood floors, pale walls, and a single hallway leading to 2 bedrooms. The landlord had been unusually eager to rent it out quickly. Elena didn't think much of it. Her first night was calm. She slept better than she had in months. The second night was the beginning. It was around 2:40 a.m. Elena woke suddenly, not from a nightmare, not from pain, but because something had brushed across her ear. She sat up immediately, heart pounding. The house was silent, still, frozen in the coldness of early morning. And then she heard it. A whisper. Faint. Thin. Like someone speaking through a crack in a door. It came from her second bedroom, a room she never used. At first she thought she imagined it, but then it came again. "Come here." Elena froze. The whisper wasn't loud, but it was unmistakable. Too clear to be pipes. Too soft to be an animal. She slowly climbed out of bed and stood in the hallway, staring at the closed door of the unused room. The whisper stopped. The silence pressed against her ears so hard that she felt dizzy. Eventually, she forced herself back to bed. She didn't sleep again. The next night after her shift, Elena walked into the house with a heavy feeling in her chest. She told herself she was overtired, sleep-deprived, just hearing things. At 3:12 a.m., she learned how wrong she was. Elena woke to a sound coming from the wall right behind her bed. Slow, steady, like someone testing the wall with their fingertips. She turned on the lamp. The tapping continued. Her throat tightened. She pressed her ear closer, and she heard breathing inside the wall. A deep, slow inhale, followed by a long exhale, as if someone was standing on the opposite side, leaning their face against the plaster. Elena stumbled out of bed, shaking. As soon as her feet hit the floor, the sound stopped. Just silence. Complete, unnatural silence. She grabbed her sweater, her car keys, and left the house until sunrise. The next day, she didn't want to go home. She sat in the hospital cafeteria long after her shift ended, staring at the time, wishing she could stay anywhere else. But eventually, she forced herself to return. At 9 p.m., she made tea. At 10 p.m., she double-checked all the locks. At 11 p.m., she played calming music in the background. Everything felt normal. At midnight, her music app suddenly closed by itself. Her room went quiet. And something whispered again. Not from the second bedroom this time. It whispered right behind her. "Elena." She spun around so fast she knocked her mug off the table. No one was there. Her breath came in short, terrified bursts. She backed into a corner of the kitchen. Then she heard it again. "Don't shut the door." The unused bedroom door, across the hall, slowly creaked open by itself. Elena didn't scream. She couldn't. Her voice felt stolen. Elena decided she'd sleep on the couch that night. The idea of being near the second bedroom was unbearable. She tried watching TV, anything to stay awake. The flickering screen cast a dim glow across the living room. At around 3:30 a.m., her eyes grew heavy. She drifted. Not fully asleep. Not fully awake. And that's when she felt it. Pressure. The air around her seemed to thicken, like the room was closing in. The temperature dropped so fast her breath turned white. Then she heard footsteps. From the empty hallway. Slow, deliberate steps. One after the other. Growing louder. Elena's eyes snapped open. Her body refused to move. The footsteps stopped right behind the couch. Silence. Then the hiss of breathing. Close enough to touch her skin. "You're in my room." A whisper so cold she felt it run down her spine. The lights flickered. The TV snapped to static. The couch suddenly shifted, as if something pushed it. Elena bolted to the front door, fumbling with the lock. She didn't look back. She ran into the night barefoot, her breath sharp in the cold air. She didn't return until morning. She called the landlord as soon as the sun rose. At first, he denied everything. Houses settle. Pipes make sound. Old wiring. Overactive imagination. But Elena wasn't backing down. Not after the whisperer said her name. Finally, the landlord exhaled sharply. "Fine. I'll tell you what I know. But you're not going to like it." He explained that the second bedroom used to belong to a boy, a quiet child who rarely spoke. Neighbors claimed they sometimes heard him talking to someone in the walls, but his parents brushed it off as imagination. One winter night, the boy disappeared. The family left shortly after. The police found nothing. The room remained untouched. And every tenant who moved into the house afterward reported the same thing. Whispers. Breathing. Footsteps in the hallway. Often around 3 a.m. Always from the second bedroom. The landlord's final words made Elena's skin crawl. "No one stays long in that house. That room feels occupied." Elena returned to the house one last time, only to pack. She refused to be alone, so she called her coworker, Maya, to come help her. At first, everything was quiet. Too quiet. They stuffed clothes into boxes. They avoided the second bedroom. But the house wasn't going to let her go easily. While Maya was folding blankets, she froze. "Elena, did you leave this door open?" Elena turned. The second bedroom door was wide open. And inside the room, the shadows on the floor were shifting. Not moving like normal shadows, but curling, stretching, gathering into a shape. A small shape, child-sized. Both women backed away slowly. Then the whisper came. "Stay." Maya grabbed Elena's arm. "Nope. Now." They ran out of the house, leaving half the boxes behind. Elena never returned. She broke the lease. Changed her number. Moved into a crowded apartment building where silence didn't exist. And sometimes, on nights when she wakes up at 3:12 a.m., she swears she still hears a faint tapping in the wall. Like something trying to find its way out. After leaving the whispering room house behind, Elena tried to rebuild her life. But while she was moving out, something else, miles away, was about to begin for someone else. A married couple named Ryan and Lila had just purchased their first home together. It was an old farmhouse on the outskirts of a quiet rural town, the kind of place people dream about for peaceful family life. It sat on 3 acres of land, surrounded by tall grass and rustling trees. A large front porch, faded red paint, and creaking wooden steps added a rustic charm. But the previous owner's belongings still sat in the attic, something the realtor apologized for, promising to remove them as soon as possible. Ryan and Lila didn't mind. They were excited, hopeful, looking forward to a new chapter. Unfortunately, that chapter wasn't meant for them alone. On their second night, Ryan decided to check the attic. Not because he wanted to, but because something kept rolling across the ceiling. A heavy thud, followed by a dragging sound. Thump thug, thump thug. Lila insisted it was probably rats, but Ryan knew rats didn't drag things across wooden floors. Still, he grabbed a flashlight and climbed up. The attic air was heavy and stale. Old trunks, dusty clothes, broken furniture, and boxes full of forgotten things filled the space. But one thing stood alone. A rocking chair, placed directly under the small circular attic window. What disturbed him wasn't the chair itself, but the fact that it was moving. Just slightly. Just enough to see the faint sway. He held his breath. The sway stopped immediately, as if whatever was rocking it just became aware he was watching. Ryan backed down the stairs, not daring to speak. He didn't tell Lila. Not yet. 3 days later, Lila woke to a sound. It echoed through the hallway. She nudged Ryan. "Someone's at the door." Ryan checked the clock, 2:47 a.m. He crept to the front door, but when he opened it, nobody. Only darkness and the cold wind moving the grass. Another knock came, behind him. He spun around. Now the sound was coming from the basement door. Slow, steady, like someone tapping their knuckles lightly, patiently, waiting to be let out. Lila called from the hallway. "What is it?" Ryan forced a smile. He didn't want her scared. "Probably pipes," he lied. But both of them knew. Pipes don't knock politely. Over the next week, things grew stranger. Asterisk silverware rearranged itself overnight. Asterisk Lila kept hearing footsteps behind her when she cooked. Asterisk the rocking chair clattered loudly at random times. Asterisk lights flickered when they mentioned the attic. Asterisk doors opened even after being locked. They tried to ignore it, until one morning Lila found something on the kitchen table. A note, written in shaky, uneven handwriting. "I'm still here," she screamed. Ryan rushed in. The note lay untouched. No dirt, no dust, no smudges. Someone had written it recently. But who? That night, Ryan sat awake in the living room, determined to catch whatever was happening. Around 3 a.m., he noticed movement through the front window. A figure, standing on the porch. Silhouette tall, thin, motionless. Ryan's breath caught in his throat. He stepped back. The figure didn't move, didn't shift, didn't tilt its head, just stood there. He reached for the nearest object, a lamp, and lifted it like a weapon. As he moved closer, the figure slowly began to fade. Not walk away, not run, just dissolve into the night like smoke. The porch light flickered once, twice, and died. Ryan locked every door, every window. He didn't sleep. 2 nights later, Lila woke to the sound of footsteps above their bedroom. The attic. But these footsteps were different, slow, heavy, dragging steps. Almost like someone barefoot was shuffling their weight across the wooden planks. Ryan shot out of bed, grabbed a flashlight, and stepped into the hallway. The attic ladder was down. He hadn't left it open. Before he could say anything, the flashlight flickered. The air turned cold, and something scraped loudly across the attic floor. Slam. The attic door slammed shut so hard the entire hallway shook. Lila ran toward Ryan, gripping his arm. That's when they both heard it. "Don't shut me out." A whisper so clear and close it froze their blood. The following evening, Lila tried to convince Ryan they should leave, just for a few nights. But Ryan insisted on understanding what this thing wanted. He set up a small camera facing the attic entrance. Not ghost hunting equipment, just a normal home camera. At around 3:05 a.m., the recording showed the attic ladder shaking, then lowering itself slowly. Next, the rocking chair upstairs began to move, but not in a gentle way. It rocked violently, as if someone was sitting in it and pushing back and forth with rage. Then a shadow passed over the floor, tall, thin, impossibly stretched. And then, both the rocking chair and the camera stopped moving at the exact same second, as if whatever was there just turned and looked at the camera. The footage ended abruptly. The next morning, Lila was brushing her hair in the hallway mirror when she froze. Behind her reflection, standing at the end of the hallway, was the silhouette. Wrongly shaped, bent slightly forward, like its spine curved at an unnatural angle. Its head tilted slowly, painfully, toward her. Her brush fell from her hand. When she turned around, the hallway was empty. But the mirror still showed the figure. Still standing there. Still watching her. She slammed the mirror face down on the floor and ran outside. That night, they slept in the car. The next day, they met a neighbor, an elderly woman who introduced herself as Margaret. Lila hesitated before asking, "Did anything happen in our house? Something we should know?" Margaret's smile faded instantly. "That house? Oh, honey, you should have never moved in." The previous owner, the one whose belongings still filled the attic, was her brother. A quiet, troubled man. He lived alone. Rarely came outside. Always muttered about someone staying with him. One winter, he stopped answering calls. They found him sitting in the attic rocking chair, frozen in place, eyes wide open. He'd been dead for at least 2 days. But what unsettled the police wasn't the body. It was the note found in his hand. The same handwriting Lila saw in the kitchen. Don't let him out. That night, Ryan and Lila returned only to grab the essentials. They refused to step inside alone, so they stayed together from room to room. But as they headed for the door with the last box, both of them froze. The attic ladder lowered itself. Slowly, mechanically, like someone upstairs was pulling it down. The rocking chair creaked, a low, long groan. The shadows stretched across the ceiling, moving toward them. Then a voice, 2 voices layered together. One adult, one child, whispered, "You can't leave. Not yet. Stay." Lila dropped the box. Ryan grabbed her hand. They ran. They didn't lock the door. They didn't look back. They drove away until the house was a tiny red mark fading in the distance. They never returned. And to this day, the new owner keeps complaining about the attic rocking chair that won't stay still, even when the house is empty. Backhand index pointing down. Months after Ryan and Lila fled the farmhouse, the property sat empty. The grass grew tall. The porch sagged. The windows fogged from the inside even on warm days, as if something in the house was breathing. Locals whispered about flickering lights when no one lived there. Silhouettes staring from the attic window. Knocks heard from the porch at night. The rocking chair creaking on windless evenings. No one wanted to buy it, except one. A 26-year-old named Jordan, a travel vlogger who hunted abandoned locations for YouTube content. He didn't believe in ghosts. He didn't believe in hauntings. He didn't believe in anything he couldn't explain. That changed in 48 hours. Jordan rented the house for a weekend ghost challenge. He planned to live stream the entire experience. His viewers were excited. A haunted farmhouse? A poltergeist story? An attic with a rocking chair? It was perfect for content. But from the moment he walked inside, something felt wrong. The air was heavy, thick, as if it had weight. And then he noticed something even stranger. The house smelled faintly like old breath. Human. He brushed it off as mold. That assumption would not last long. Around 1:30 a.m., Jordan sat in the living room reading comments from his viewers. Someone typed, "Why is the wall behind you moving?" Jordan laughed. He thought it was a joke. But then another comment appeared. "Bro, the wall is literally expanding." Another, "The wall is breathing." Jordan slowly turned around. The wall wasn't moving. It was pulsing, expanding a half-inch outward, then pulling inward, like lungs filling, then deflating. He held his breath. The wall didn't stop. Inhale. Inhale. Jordan backed up, shaking. He whispered to the camera, "This house is alive." He shut off the stream. Jordan didn't sleep that night, but exhaustion caught up with him on night 2. At around 3 a.m., he woke to a sound he couldn't ignore. The rocking chair. He grabbed his camera. "All right," he whispered nervously, "let's go." The attic ladder was down, waiting for him. Not lowered halfway. Completely descended. Open. Inviting. He climbed. Each step groaned under his weight. Halfway up, he smelled something. Sweat. Warm exhale hitting his face even though no one was near him. At the top, he lifted the camera slowly. The rocking chair was moving violently, faster than any person could rock it. Back and forth. Slamming against the floorboards with each swing. He whispered, "Hello." The chair stopped instantly, as if whoever was sitting in it had just stood up. And then, something ran across the attic. Slapping the wooden floorboards. Straight toward him. Jordan fell backward down the ladder, hitting the floor hard. He scrambled away, but the attic door slammed above him with a force that shook dust off the ceiling. He didn't go back up there. The next morning, Jordan tried to convince himself he had imagined everything. The breathing walls. The rocking chair. The footsteps. Sleep deprivation. Just ghost hunter adrenaline. He decided to film a simple house tour instead. But halfway through recording, something interrupted him. A scratching sound. Soft at first. Scritch, scritch, scritch. Coming from the wall behind him. He pressed his ear against the plaster. The scratching grew louder. Then faster. More frantic. As if someone, or something, was clawing its way from inside the wall trying to escape. Jordan's stomach dropped as he whispered, "Hello." The scratching stopped instantly. Silence. A deep, guttural exhale blew out through a crack in the wall, straight into his ear. Jordan screamed and stumbled back. Something inside the wall whispered, "Let me out." He ran outside and vomited in the grass. Jordan decided to leave that night. He packed his bags and headed for the front door. But when he opened it, he froze. Across the wooden floor, a trail of wet, dirty footprints. Bare footprints. Coming from the basement door. Leading toward him. Stopping just 2 feet away. He checked the basement door. It was open. But he had locked it earlier. Jordan whispered, "Nope. I'm done." He turned toward the car. But Summit. "Nope. I'm done." He turned toward the car. But something stopped him. A new footprint appeared. Right in front of him. He watched it form, the mud filling in the shape of a heel, then each toe, as if an invisible foot had just stepped forward. He ran for the car. As he drove away, he saw the attic light flicker on. And in the window, the shadow tilted, watching him leave. When Jordan got home, he checked his camera footage. Every single recording was corrupted, except one, a 7-second clip. It showed Jordan asleep on the couch. Then, slowly, the camera tilted on its own. It turned toward the hallway, toward the attic ladder. Then a whisper, long, breathy, layered with 2 voices, played. "Don't leave me alone again." The footage cut to black. Jordan deleted the video, quit vlogging and moved away. But sometimes, on quiet nights, he still hears scratching inside his apartment walls. He says it stopped for a while. Until one day, he found a note on his kitchen table. Same shaky handwriting. Same message from the farmhouse. "I'm still here. If you made it all the way to the end of this story, you're officially one of the brave ones." But the nightmare doesn't end here. More true horror stories, more poltergeist encounters, and more real cases far darker than this one are waiting for you on the channel. So if you want another reason to sleep with the lights on, visit the channel, explore the playlist, and step into the next story, because the most terrifying part of all is this. Every story you heard tonight actually happened.